Hi, Jay. Thank you for being here with us today.
Hi, Vicky. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure seeing you and meeting you again.
Let's start by introducing yourself for our audience. And could you explain a little bit about your background?
Sure. My name is Jay Sheth. I'm an engineer, entrepreneur, and I've been in the automotive market for more than 40 years. Done all kinds of activity in the automotive market, from product development, product engineering, manufacturing, you name it. Done pretty much everything.
So, given your extensive experience, what would you say makes Alpha and industry stand out in ways that you haven't seen before?
From all the conversations that I've had with your CEO, Mr. Edward Lee, and with your technical people as well, I've had the privilege of looking at a lot of your technical and business documents, and also had a chance to visit your office. And one thing that really stands out is that there is no fluff. There's no, uh, people are very, very clear in terms of what they want to do. They know what they're doing. They, of course, have the background. Edward has got the background from many automotive companies. He's absolutely a solid engineer and a solid executive that can handle a lot of these things. But more importantly, his approach is very frugal, very down to earth. They've got great technology, to mind you. They've got great technology. They've got several patents. They have already gotten quite a few vehicles made. They're already has a show car, which is drivable. But the approach is very simple and down to earth. And so, it's very easy to make the vehicle, and it's a great utility vehicle and a vehicle that can be used by the masses.
And Jay, what would you say are some of the key challenges in successfully navigating the electric vehicle market?
Great question. If you look at US, we have very good uh, infrastructure for charging the vehicles. The grid and everything is there. What is not there is a utility vehicle. So, yes, we've got the Teslas and the Rivians and all those vehicles that are out there, but they're not priced right. And the charging of those vehicles is not an issue in this country. It's not really a technical challenge, it's a mindset that people have. And for me, it's, how do we overcome that mindset? And it's really done by demonstrations, by people like me talking about it. For example, when I got my first electric vehicle 3 years ago, I drove from Michigan to California, no issues, right? I mean, the hotels had chargers. I could find chargers on the expressway. There was not an issue. Now, in some of the other countries where we would like the utility vehicles also to be available, the countries are smaller. And with Alpha's range, it's not an issue. Somebody can use the vehicle for a day, come back to their shop or their home, put the vehicle on charge. And that's what gives this vehicle, it has a decent range, it's low priced. So I think Alpha has a huge advantage over the others in terms of providing the necessary range, utility, and cost.
And Jay, how does the experienced leadership at Alpha inspire confidence in the company's potential for market success?
A lot of the companies, the other EV companies, were started or initiated by people that did not have automotive experience. Of course, they hired people with automotive background, and all that. So, but the initial leadership did not have the necessary automotive experience, in my opinion. Alpha is different. All those folks have got solid automotive background from very well-known companies and OEMs. They've had roles, varying different roles from start to finish, so they can take the product end to end. So that bodes a lot of confidence, number one. They're not trying to develop and sell an exotic flying car of some type. What they're really doing is coming up with a proper utility truck and a vehicle that can be used by a common person. And it's being presented at a low cost. So there's automotive knowledge, business knowledge, market need. So when you put that together, I believe that the combination is very strong.
All right. From your engineering perspective, can you comment on the manufacturability of Alpha's Wolf electric truck and also break it down for the public? What gives Alpha an edge in reaching the mass market compared to others?
Alpha has been designed and built on a frame. Having the vehicle on a frame has many advantages. It gives it the strength, it gives us the durability, so it'll have a long life. If I have a skateboard, as we call it, which is the battery wheels and the whole suspension mechanism and the steering mechanism, that's all part of one unit, otherwise known as a skateboard. Now you can put all kinds of bodies on top of it, and the first one that's going to be is a Wolf truck. The truck's fundamental design is a body on frame. So we manufacture the frame and we manufacture the body. This is a well-known approach, but the unique part about this is that the design is such so that the separation of the frame and the body will give us a better durability, number one. It'll give you a better performance in terms of what the occupants will feel, less vibrations. And then putting it together is going to be so much easier. You see, if you come up with a concept of a full monocoque vehicle, to install the batteries, the powertrain, the motors, and all that is very difficult. But if you go with a skateboard design, and that's what Alpha is doing, you go with a skateboard design, you have a frame, you have the batteries, the motors, suspension, and steering. Now, with that platform, I can manufacture that, and then I can drop the body on it, and it could be really any body that I want onto that frame. And it's a very nice approach that's not been done for this size of vehicles.
And could you also break this down a little more for the public? What gives Alpha an edge in reaching the mass market compared to others?
Main reason why everybody's not using an electric vehicle today. One, as I mentioned earlier, the range anxiety.
Mhm.
And the second very big reason is the cost. That's why government sometimes gives incentives for people to buy the EV because the EVs are so expensive. Well, in case of, if you look at the cost of Alpha, the product cost isn't that high. It is just in line with the internal combustion engine models, and it's not anything that somebody would not be able to afford. So it's a very affordable vehicle. On top of that, once you start manufacturing, and now if there's a new market need, such as somebody says, I want a station wagon or a hatchback or a combination thereof, it's very easy to develop a new body and just drop it on the frame. So the biggest expense in development of a vehicle, just to try to explain to you the mass market, the biggest expense in developing a vehicle and producing a vehicle is the designing of the energy source, which is batteries, and the motors, which in this case, there are several electric motors that are being used. So as long as that is developed properly and we can purchase that in volume, we can maintain the low cost, and therefore it'll be very appealing to the market.
So you kind of touched upon this, but what are your thoughts on Alpha's financial approach in bringing its electric vehicles to the market?
Like most companies that get started, now please keep in mind Alpha is not a startup. They've already manufactured vehicles, they've already sold some vehicles, albeit in a custom form. So their approach is really frugal, like I mentioned before, but also extremely controlled. They're making sure that for whatever they do, they have enough financial resources available to take that step in completeness, number one. A lot of companies fail because they underestimate what it'll take them to really go into the manufacturing mode. Well, that's not Alpha. Alpha is making sure that the resources are available before they take the next step. To me, what that does is it gives confidence to the investors, number one. It gives confidence to the people who are ordering the vehicle, because if I come to you and say, sure, I'll have a vehicle available next month, and I don't show up with a vehicle for next 3 years, that's bad, right? So if I'm ordering a vehicle, I should have the vehicle available within the time frame that's committed. Okay, plus or minus 6 months, that's understandable. So those are the two key things. The third thing, nowadays nobody makes a whole vehicle themselves. They work with lots of suppliers. So when you're working with suppliers, if you go to a supplier and say, I have the money, I have the necessary resources in terms of financial, uh, time, etc., it bodes a lot of confidence in the suppliers, and then you'll get best support, best cost, best everything from the supplier. So To me, that's a very important three approaches that Alpha is taking, giving confidence to the investors, giving confidence to the consumers, and giving confidence to the suppliers. Right. So once you do that, it's a winning combination.
And lastly, Jay, do you see Alpha effectively addressing the market demand and the needs and desires of the EV consumers today?
What Alpha is doing, it's making the vehicles very accessible to the mass market and very quickly. Once we start the production, they'll meet the demand, whatever the demand is at that point. So what is needed in the market today? Do we have luxury vehicles like Teslas and Rivians and all that running around? Yes, we have those, and that's addressing a particular market need. The other need is more of a utilitarian need, which I don't think is being addressed by anybody today. Of course, people can argue and say, yes, this truck can do that, this vehicle can do that. But I feel that the vehicle that Alpha is developing, it certainly looks like it's a fun vehicle to drive, but it meets the utilitarian needs, which I think is not being addressed in the market today.
Thank you so much.